Mr. Carthy.
The strength of this resolution on Ireland is to be welcomed. Every month since the Brexit referendum, there has been growing support for the Sinn Féin proposal that the north of Ireland requires special status to prevent the hardening of the border, to protect the Good Friday Agreement and to defend citizens' rights. Membership of the single market and the customs union for all of Ireland is essential. The British Government has not presented a single realistic proposal on the Irish border. Their position, dictated by the DUP, is political lunacy that would harm unionist workers, students, businesses and farmers as much as their Republican counterparts. The backstop, while not perfect, provides some much needed certainty. The British Government actually signed up for this in December, and for once it is time for them to honour their word. Finally, the Irish people have confirmed time and time again they want to be part of the EU. But like citizens across Europe, they want a social, progressive, democratic EU. The ongoing drive for the further militarisation of Europe, including PESCO, is regressive and undermines the message of solidarity and peace that should be central to this Parliament's response to Brexit.
Mr. Smith, 1 minute.
President, thank you. Amidst all our talk, quite rightly, about the single market, the customs union, it is, I think, a point worth making, colleagues, that Scotland voted to remain within our European Union. That is our starting point, and that is our domestic issue, but we will be in touch. Don't forget about Scotland. But in this debate, I'd address my remarks to people outside of this chamber. The people in England, the people in the United Kingdom, I say as a friend of both, who voted leave. I get it. Your anger is justified. Your anger is real. But I assure you, your fight is not with the European Union. You were told you believed the promises. You were told by serious people like David Davis that there was no downside and a considerable upside to voting leave. Well, I tell you, dear friends, this is what the future looks like. And it's pretty bloody bleak. A diminished UK, a diminished Europe, a poorer citizenry, a poorer society, a poorer economy. Nobody voted to make themselves poorer. There are no unicorns, there are no windmills for every voter, there is no £350 million for the NHS. They lied to you. You were right. You were right, you were genuine to take those promises at face value. But as we get to the end point of this process, we see what the reality is. There is no shame in changing your mind. There is still time to change course. Thank you.
Thank you. 1 minute. Thank you. 1 minute, Madam Scott Cato, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. As a British MEP, I'm experiencing both sides of the Brexit negotiations, and what makes me really sad is that it's the European side that is active in protecting citizens' rights and environmental standards, while the Tories are using Brexit to ride roughshod over them. I notice this especially in the area of tax, the main area of my work here in the Parliament, and where our resolution makes clear that the UK will not achieve a trade deal with the EU unless we match European standards in the fight against tax avoidance and money laundering. So I'm glad that my work here on tax won't be wasted, but I'm sad that I must use my role as an MEP to protect these high standards in the UK after Brexit. The situation is similar with citizens' rights, where my own government did little to defend our interests, as though the 1 million British people who work in the EU or have European partners or children just don't matter to them. Brexit is a clear example of ideology triumphing over reason, and as such it is the epitome of bad government.
Thank you. And now Madam Reintke for 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As this process unfolds, we can all clearly see what was the biggest lie that was told during the Brexit campaign. It was not a bus that was claiming that there would be £350 million for the NHS. It was not wrong statistics given or wrong representations of the European Union. It was the claim itself that was a lie, taking back control. Because as we see Brexit develop, we see that it does the exact opposite, that millions of citizens, non-British and British EU citizens, are losing control over their rights. They are losing control over the possibilities that they have in their lives. We see the people on the island of Ireland losing control over a peace process which they thought was going into the right direction. And we need to very clearly say that when this is going to unfold, when we are going to lose control, who is going to win of this? It's going to be the bullies. It's going to be the people with no scruple. And this Parliament has to make sure that the good people are not going to lose control, that we stand up for their rights, that we stand up for them having control over their lives, even in this very horrible situation of Brexit. Thank you very much.
For 1 minute, Madam Evans, you have the floor.
Thank you, President. I Am European is the title of a campaign that my party, Plaid Cymru, the Party of Wales, launched last week, calling for people to have the ability to retain their EU citizenship after the UK leaves the EU. The petition received more than 5,000 signatures in just the first few days. And last Wednesday, the House of Commons debated and backed a Plaid Cymru motion on this. No one has the right to strip people of their citizenship against their will. That's the view of many legal experts. But that's what will happen unless there's action now. And it's a question of political will. I welcome the fact that this resolution again proposes that the EU27 examine how to mitigate the loss of rights of UK citizens, and I urge the Commission and the Council to recognise that for many, their European citizenship is also an essential part of their identity. Diolch. Thank you.
Onorevole Berder.
This Brexit government still has no plan on Northern Ireland, no plan for its citizens and no plan for businesses. No clear plan is a dereliction of duty. The Church Times wrote, and I quote, "When a government sees an impending threat to its people in its care, it fails in its duty if it does nothing to remove that threat." Mrs May and her Conservative government are failing in their duty of care to their country. As the so-called party of business, it would appear they have no business plan. You can't run a corner shop without a business plan, let alone a country. The single market has massive benefits, but it also has rules. This resolution is clear about those rules, and it's reasonable to defend them. But whatever the deal might be, we as Liberal Democrats demand the people have a say on it. We here will have a vote. It's likely the Parliament of Wallonia will have a vote. Or as my hashtag says, give us a say, Mrs May. Thank you, Mr President.
Mr Corbett, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. The emerging position of the EU27 and the resolution that we have before us in Parliament today cannot be a surprise to the UK government. They respond, in fact, to the ambiguities and the contradictions in that government's position. The biggest ambiguity of all is the idea that you can have frictionless trade with the rest of Europe while leaving the customs union and the single market. Colleagues, the single market and the customs union are precisely the tools with which our countries have organised frictionless trade across Europe. You can't walk out from them, abandon them, and still have frictionless trade. And the customs union also is a vital question when it comes to the Northern Ireland border. All of us are waiting with bated breath to hear how you can turn that border into a customs border but not have any customs controls. How do you do it? How can it be done? Electronically. So all these nice wizardry things. I think they want to send Harry Potter to find out some solution to this border. The leaked government figures, by the way, show that this solution would reduce UK GDP by 4.5% over the next decade. No wonder they wanted to keep those figures quiet, and how embarrassed they were when they leaked out. No, there will be deadlock, I fear, in these negotiations, which will continue for so long as we have a government in Britain that is divided internally, that has no majority in its own parliament, and which continues to lose public support on this issue. It's time for a change within Britain if these issues are going to be properly addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. President, as the resolution recognises, the logical consequences of the UK Conservative government's red lines are customs checks and delays at Dover and elsewhere, which will seriously impact the supply chains of UK businesses, but also businesses in the EU 27. Theresa May's red lines have boxed the UK into a corner, with a free trade agreement now the only option. This will be damaging for the EU and a disaster for the United Kingdom. Whitehall's own assessment of the impact makes for bleak reading. If the UK ends up with only a free trade agreement, it can expect a GDP drop of 5% nationally, including in my South East constituency, and under WTO rules that the likes of UKIP want, that would be even worse. None of this seems to bother the UK Conservatives, who seem to have abandoned UK business entirely. But it will not be their wealthy chums who suffer from this. It will be ordinary people. It's high time this government dropped its red lines and negotiated with an open mind.